Hi, this is Andrew Burt, CEO of Luminos.ai.
And this is Sean McGregor, the founder of the AI Incident Database.
And welcome to our second episode of Inside the Incident. In these segments, Sean and I dive deep into a specific AI incident. The goal is to dive behind the headlines, get behind some of the hype and the hyperbole associated with AI governance, so we can actually learn from what's going on and make AI deployments better and safer.
Before getting into the details on this one, first usual disclaimers. I'm a machine learning researcher. I'm not a lawyer. There's no legal advice happening here. This one's going to be a deep cut. We're going to go all the way back to July of 2017. Incident number 68. Security robot drowns itself in a fountain. A tweet from Bilal Farouqui stated, quote, "RTC office building got a security robot. It drowned itself." Great picture on this one. Really was the hit of the internet for that particular day. Andrew, what can you tell me about the liability associated with this one? Or like, why are we even talking about robots at all? Like, this is kind of a different take on things.
So at one level, like this was 10 years ago and no one really cares because robots do all sorts of weird stuff. The reason why it's so interesting right now is because we're in the midst of this big adoption of agentic AI, where we're giving AI agency, we're stacking Gen AI on top of each other, and we're basically telling them, go do things on my behalf. And so the reason why this is so interesting is here we have an early example of this thing, in this case, in the physical world, in meat space, going out and doing things on its own and getting into trouble. And so here we have this really clear parallel to what's happening with agents and agentic AI. And frankly, there's a lot we can learn from that. Sean, do you want to talk a little bit about why this happened and what could have been done to stop it?
Sure. And we can really start with edge conditions and look at the edge condition of this step that is sitting right above the fountain. And a lot of people have effectively a home version of this robot. It's a Roomba or a home vacuum robot is very similar nature to this security robot. And the best way to ensure that your robot doesn't get into trouble, and where this is a really useful metaphor for agentic systems, is you need to keep it away from edge conditions. You keep it away from that step. And you can think about what is an edge condition with respect to agentic systems, just as you can see it physically in the real world environment with these robots.
And so from our perspective, what we frequently kind of see customers do is just the standard suite of tests. You try to figure out everything that users are going to do with the system. And then you also, like we talked about in the first episode, you think about red teaming. And so you want to have a really kind of robust view of what you're going to do to test your system before it gets deployed. Now, in terms of a liability perspective, I think AI agents and robots and all of the different ways that we're giving AI different levels of autonomy are really interesting. When you have kind of standard classical AI that's just making decisions, that's fairly straightforward in terms of what the liability is. When you start to think about Gen AI and agentic AI, the liability changes and you basically open up the aperture. It's no longer about laws that are specific to AI. It's about laws that are specific to whatever is happening. And I will say one of the things that is very interesting about robotics versus agentic AI is in the world of robots and autonomous AI, there is, I'll call it a standard of care. And for those who are not on the legal side, that basically means some widely agreed upon standard that relates to safety. And so you can basically tell if this thing related to safety is not being done, the organization or the people deploying or building the system are doing something wrong. Again, there are all these things that are developing for physical systems. There are not yet standards for agentic AI. And I think it's another indicator of kind of the rush to adopt AI that we're seeing, especially with agentic AI. And again, we're seeing it all over our customer base at Luminos. All right, we are going to insert into this episode a short game we're calling Two Truths and a Lie About AI Gone Wrong. Sean is going to describe 3 AI incidents, and I'm going to guess which one actually happened and which one did not.
All right, so we have Starship's autonomous food delivery robot allegedly stranded at railroad crossing in Oregon, run over by freight train.
Truth. I can very much foresee that, and I would assume that there's an edge case where they didn't actually think about the robot going over train tracks.
Yes, this is indeed a truth. Here's the video of the robot getting hit. It was quite traumatizing to all involved. I will say people quite like those robots delivering their food.
What a train wreck.
What a train wreck that was.
I apologize to everyone who had to listen to that joke.
Incident number 2, warehouse robot ruptures can of bear spray and injures workers.
100% true. No one could make that up.
Yeah, the headlines of that one were really incredible about robot bear spraying warehouse workers. That is a thing that can happen apparently, and that's an edge case when you have an everything store that everything can be ruptured by a robot. Incident 134: robot in Chinese shopping mall fell off the escalator, knocking down passengers.
That one sounds real. I know that it's got to be a lie because we're at 3 of 3, but that sounds very real.
And this is one where it's a question mark. When we ingested it because there's credible allegations that happened, but you watch the video and you see it's a little bit strange. Like the video is shot with a person right behind the robot right as it's getting onto an escalator and then shoots down and knocks over 2 people.
So Sean, question for you. I'm a company. I really want to adopt Agentic AI to do things like talk to customers and do things on their behalf, or I want physical things to happen in my warehouse and I want robots prowling around. I'm going to buy these systems from a third party. What do I do? What do I ask? How do I make sure they don't fall into the proverbial water fountain of self-destruction?
Just looking at the warehouse case alone, if you're looking to deploy a system safely and you don't have test or documentation about that specific circumstances you're putting it into, you are running the experiment. You are the experiment. The best thing you can do is have actual measured performance in the field of your system, your robot, whatever it may be, and see how many times it falls off the step.
And I think from our perspective, again, looking, dealing directly with AI governance and privacy folks, that what Sean just said is another indication of the fact that there's liability on one side of the coin, and then there's also trust on the other. And so if you want to protect yourself from violating laws, that's also directly related to making sure the people using your systems are comfortable with it. And so showing that your system is trustworthy is also very similar, if not the same, as protecting yourself and your system from liability.
So what we have there is alignment of interests. It turns out many times making more money and doing well and doing better in the world and for the world are directly aligned with one another.
Good governance is good performance if you're doing it right.
Right. Safety is a feature. A bug is a bug.
Well, that wraps it up for episode number 2 of Inside the Incident. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for more.
Thank you. I encourage you to go to incidentdatabase.ai to learn more about incidents.
And as a reminder, a few disclaimer statements. Like Sean said earlier, Sean is not a lawyer. I am a lawyer. As always, though, I am not your lawyer unless you contact me and we have a conversation. I would also just like to say all the information that we talked about is all public information. You can access all of it on the AI Incident database, and no information is based on any inside knowledge of any of the events. Thank you very much.